Okay, this is step 2 of this tutorial. So once you have put your sealer on, make sure that it's really glossy. Now it's time to use a universal mold release. You can buy a mold release from Smooth On. It's a spray-on, the aerosol, and it's only 12 bucks a can. So, and you can't beat that. You don't have to hose it down. The bottle will last you a long time. You just spray basically until it is lubricated, and then you can go. And for any of those areas of the thing that you're not sure about but you don't want to hose it down, just take a paintbrush and just make sure that you get the underneath areas and stuff like that. Because trust me, if part of it does not have the mold release on it, it will stick to the plastic or the rubber, and you will have to try to do some extra cleaning when it comes time to remove the mold. So after that, you're going to use whatever mold rubber that you have. What I would do is, regardless of if you're going to use any of this for the actual sculpting process, I would get some of the clay that I was talking about, the sulfur-based clay, and I would make a border going around your sculpture and do it where it has like holes and different channels. So when you demold, when you put the two pieces of the mold together, they don't slide around, if you know what I'm talking about. Just so it fits in like this instead of fitting in like that, because when you do that, then you can have some problems if you don't have it so it's together like it's supposed to be. So if that made any sense at all. So after you have made your border, now it's time to add one side of your helmet or your chest armor or whatever, your mold making rubber. So you're going to do the first coat of the rubber, whatever rubber that you find. When it comes to buying the rubber mold, the more expensive it is, the more detail that it will pick up, especially if you're dealing with Smooth On. They have some of the most amazing mold making rubber. So as long as you contact them and ask them what would be good for you, and then they can deal with, you know, talking you through whatever, because I'm not the professional here, they are. They'll tell you, considering whatever detail is going to be on your helmet. Like if you're just doing a helmet from Mega Ranger, then you probably don't need the most amazing mold. But if you're doing a helmet like one of the ZU helmets where you've got the tusks or you've got the teeth and all of this madness, then you're probably going to need one of the better molds. So you're going to use your paintbrushes, which you need to buy paintbrushes at like Walmart or whatever. You can get a bunch of throwaway paintbrushes for like less than $1 a piece. And you would also need some mixing containers. You can buy mixing cups for $1.50 a piece, and just buy a whole bunch of those. And usually at like Walmart and Home Depot and stuff, if you buy paint, they give you the stirrers for free, which is just the wooden pieces. You can get those for free. So if you're gonna just go through there and buy your mixing containers and your paint brushes, grab a bunch of those, stick them in the cups, and they won't charge you for them. At the most, they'll charge you 10 cents a piece if you find a store that actually will charge you for them. So you're going to mix your stuff together. What I would suggest is using 2 separate mixing containers and pouring them into one. This will reduce you having areas, like if you poured the hardener into the actual rubber, having it where some of it actually does not cure. This will get it so you're mixing them together evenly and you're not going to have any of those problems. You just stir it, read the instructions, whatever instructions come with your rubber, read it, understand it, and do exactly what it tells you, because some of it has to be weighed, some of it has to be measured, all kinds of craziness. So when you paint it on, do one thin layer so you get all the details on your sculpture, on that side of your sculpture. And once you've done that, do one more thin layer, and then start just gobbing it on. But make sure that you get all of it, and make sure that where you've got the clay border, that you go up onto the border too, okay, where it's got the grooves in and all of that stuff. And once that has dried, which it will take like It could take a day or 2 days to dry. So depending on whatever product you have, you take the clay off, the clay border off, and then you leave that other side on. You spray the border that you have created with the rubber with the mold release. And then you start painting on the other side. Do exactly what I said for the first side until you have it so it's thick enough on both sides and it's connected at the top. As long as you put a mold release around the border, it will come off. But don't forget to do that, because rubber may not stick onto clay, but it will stick onto rubber. So just keep that in mind. Just try to remember, mold release is the most important thing that you have here. Otherwise, everything else is screwed. So basically, after you have done that, you're going to create a mother mold. Your mother mold can be, Smooth-On has some really good mother mold that you can buy. It's hard foam, and it'll become so hard that you can throw it across the room and it will not break. Or you can go the cheaper way out and just get burlap sacks, which you can get at a grocery store. A lot of these grocery stores will do displays with potatoes or something like that the burlap sacks come in, and you can buy them, and they're not expensive. And just get plaster of Paris or regular plaster, and you just mix it. You cover the like strips of the burlap, and then you just put it over the plastic or the rubber. Sorry. Once you have done that, you should do that on both sides. Do it around the border as well, because you want this thing to be solid, and make sure that the mother mold is thick. You don't want it to collapse in on itself, so don't just try to rig it where you just cover one big piece of burlap and just stick it on there. You need strips, so you create some kind of like dimension to it, and you keep it hard. Once you have done that, you need to remove the mother mold, and you need to remove the regular rubber mold. And when you do that, remove the mother molds first, put them aside, and then you have to peel off the regular mold. Don't be surprised if pieces of your sculpture come off in this process. It happens. But just hope that you did a good enough job with the rubber, with the mold, that you're not going to have to do some alterations or some shit to go back and fix. So just do that, take it off, clean the molds, clean the 2 rubber molds. You're not going to clean the mother molds. Once those are completely clean, you're going to move your sculpture aside, and you're going to use a mold release on the inside. The mold release, usually you have to let it sit for like 15 minutes before you use it. So just spray each, you know, the inside of the molds and the borders, and use a paintbrush to make sure that you get all the little creases and all the little things so you don't have any issues. And then let it sit. And then you're going to put all of the pieces together, and you're going to use bungee cords, and you're going to bungee them together. So it's just one hard thing. And if it's a helmet, for instance, then you can take and you can, because you'll have the bottom part for the neck, and you have that open, and that's where you're going to put the resin for the actual helmet itself. So now when it comes to the actual resin, you're going to have to talk to the people at Smooth-On or whatever company you're going to buy the plastic from. Like, I wouldn't suggest going with the paint-on molds or the paint-on plastic, because when you're dealing with the paint-on stuff, especially if it's shell shock, if you get the measurements wrong, that shit hardens like that. And trust me, it sucks ass when you're trying to paint that in there and it starts hardening on your paintbrush and it's just peeling off. It's really fucking awful. So what I suggest is using like Smooth Cast 300, which is a fast setting white. It's actually what I used for the Toby mask in one of my previous videos. So you just mix in the two parts of the rubber, or the plastic, sorry, and you'll know when it's starting to work, because the container will get fucking hot as hell. So that's when you know that you've stirred it long enough to pour it in. Just read the instructions like I said. You're going to use like a cup of it, pour it in, and start swishing it around, and make sure that you get on the top, you know, tip it and all of that. Just don't stop until you make sure that you do it. And now, originally it will be completely clear. That's how you'll know, is that when it actually cures, it will turn white. and it does it like that. So you need to just pay attention and make sure that you get all the little areas. You might have to use more. Just measure it out. You don't want to waste too much of the product. So once you've done that and you've gotten all your edges and everything, then you're going to want to demold it. Now, before you do any cutting or anything like that, you're going to need some fiberglass resin and some fiberglass sheets, which you can buy the fiberglass and all of that at like any Ace Hardware or any stuff like that, because they use it for like repairing boats and shit. So you get some of the fiberglass, and you're going to cut the sheets into like strips or into little squares, and then you're going to, once you have the actual helmet uncut and unscrewed with, then you're going to start painting on the fiberglass and start putting in the little squares on the inside of the helmet. This will support your helmet, so when you cut it, it's not going to just fall into pieces. But trust me, there will be times when it will crack and break, but that will be later on that I'll walk you through that. So once you've done that and it has hardened, which I'm not exactly sure, I think it takes like a night or two for it to harden, then you're ready for Bondo. Okay, you can buy Bondo at any Ace Hardware or any other hardware stores because they're meant for fixing cars. So what you do is you get body putty or Bondo, you mix the chemicals right, and then you start filling in any bubble marks, bubble holes, or cracks, and you just fill it in. You get it so it's pliable, and then you sand it down, and then you keep adding until you've gotten it so it's all smooth. Then you can cut it if you've gotten it down to what you need it to get down to. But you're going to need a primer first. Get like a gray primer. If you spray it with a gray primer, you're going to see all of the blemishes that need to be altered. Because trust me, when you paint it, you're really going to notice shit if you don't check it beforehand. So you use a gray primer, spray paint it, and then if there's any dimples or any areas that need to be altered, you just fill it with body putty, and you just do that until it's completely good, and then you can cut it. Now, the Dremel tool that I'm using is called Multimaster. The Multimaster is really awesome because the blade does not spin, it vibrates. And you get all different accessories, pointed ones and everything else that are really, really good. And it doesn't shred through shit like a normal Dremel tool does. And you can buy that on eBay, and it's not that expensive. I think that I paid 80 bucks for mine. So, get yourself a good Dremel tool and hold the bitch down and cut where you're going to have your helmet separate. Go across, use a pen to mark to make sure that you get it perfect, and then just go across with it and separate it into two pieces. Then you're going to need the Bondo again, because you're going to need to have some kind of a groove system to set up so the helmet will connect back together. So what I have used is using plastic resin, making thin sheets of, or even fiberglass. If you use fiberglass resin, you just use little sheets of it, and you make just like long pieces, and you put it where it's sticking out of the side of one of the pieces of the helmet, so then when you push them together that they don't slide around. So once you've done that and you have it where the helmet is good, you've bondoed the borders of both parts of the helmet, you've verified that it does fit around your head and does close, then you're going to need, you're going to need to Bondo the neck part so it doesn't have any jagged edges and it's good. Sand it down. You're going to need to do a lot of wet and dry sanding. You first start out with like a low grit, like 20 grit, 50 grit, and then you work your way up to like 3000 grit. And each time you do it, you go down, you sand it down, you wet sand it, then you can use a primer and paint it, then use different sandpaper, and you keep doing this until it is very, very smooth. And you're getting it down to the smoothest that it can possibly be. This will help when you're painting it to keep it as glossy and nice as you want it. Alright, so that's pretty much it for video 2. So go and check out video 3, and I will teach you how to paint it.